Jehovah's Witnesses pride themselves on being no part of the world. It's one of the first things that they become indoctrinated with when they begin studying with the group. However, when you look into the religion and their history, they are absolutely part of this world. And this presentation is going to prove that by going over some things that you may or may not have seen nor heard before. Now, over the years, there have been numerous presentations about the Watchtower group or the Watchtower religion and how they are tied to this world. And I thought I would go through, perhaps revisit some of those, but then add to it because it goes very deep when you study reality as well as the way the world works. So the first one, it's one that has helped waken up many XJWs in the past, and that is being part of the United Nations. Now, this is a letter that proves that the Watchtower was an NGO with the United Nations, which means that they had to be affiliated with the United Nations. Now, they may have argued that they used this affiliation as some form of a library card. However, the point is that to be no part of the world would mean not being involved with the United Nations on any level. Now, this letter can be found on the UN's website, and I'll post a link to it, and you can read more about what it is and why they even needed to address this in the first place. But that's an obvious one. It's from March of 2004, and like I said, it's still up there today. Next, we have the cross and the crown. Now, the cross and the crown could be found on the old watchtowers in the 1800s. And if you look up the God's Kingdom Rules book on jw.org in the Watchtower Online Library, they have this article in the book, or this little excerpt, that tries to convince the reader that, well, the cross and the crown was used by many churches back in the day, and due to having new light over time, the witnesses stopped using the cross and the crown. However, that article does not in any way show a relation to what the cross and the crown is used for in the world, and that is in Freemasonry. So here we have the Knights Templar Freemason article directly from Wikipedia, and it's the exact same cross and the crown that was found in the Watchtower article and on the old watchtowers. So nowhere in this article will they ever admit that the cross and the crown is the exact same symbol used by Freemasonry. They basically try to stick to the point of it being a cross, and we no longer use the cross, so we've moved on from it. But they'll never admit that this symbol is a Freemason symbol. And here it is again. Here they're showing how the International Bible Students Association, I believe that's what it stands for, how they wore it back in the day, but now they believe it to be a pagan symbol. But again, they'll never connect the two, cross and crown, with Freemasonry or even being part of the world. Here we have the ex-president of the United States, Andrew Johnson, wearing the exact same cross and crown with his Freemason gloves and garb. So here's the question, and if you ask a JW elder, they'll never be able to answer this because they have no clue about any of this stuff. Why were the Jehovah's Witnesses or the Bible students wearing the exact same cross and crown that the Freemasons wear? Again, they won't answer that question because they wouldn't know where to begin to answer it. And if we go back to the old Watchtower covers, we notice there a knight in the top right-hand corner with what looks to be a sword and an axe going through their head. Now, why would this symbol ever be on the One True Religion's publications? A lot of people mention the cross and crown, but I think this knight with the sword going through its head is pretty interesting. And the two swords going through a knight's head is also a symbol that comes from the world. Here on Wikipedia, I took a little snippet of it. It says 2 downward pointing swords and saltire, symbol of the Order of St. Paul. So what does the symbolism there represent, and why does that have to be on the Watchtower publication? If you ask an elder that question, you will not know the answer nor the origins, because this is something that the organization would like to sweep under the rug and pretend never happened. As the years goes on, we see that they try to remove themselves from these symbolisms, especially the Freemasonic symbolisms, as we'll see more of in the presentation. So next we have this snippet from Faith in Action Part 2, timestamp 1317. This video is still up on the website today. It hasn't been edited as of June 2024. And this little snippet shows the square and compass found right there on Watchtower's website in the video. Now, whether or not this publication is a JW publication that they have the screenshot of, it should be irrelevant, because here we have God's one true religion on their only website, and they're flashing a Freemason symbol. And here we see the Freemason symbol being used wherever Freemason lodges are. And interestingly enough, we have here the former Queen of England with her nurse. And if you zoom in on what the nurse is wearing, she's wearing a belt buckle with the exact same square and compass. And I believe that's the Star of David symbolism as well on the buckle. But again, we see on the world stage these symbols being used, as well as being shown in Watchtower literature and video. Next, we have a couple of old announcements or invitations here. We see on the left the invitation to Religion versus the Bible, a public address by S. Barr, and of course the location of the talk at a Masonic temple. So a lot of earlier congregations used to meet at Masonic temples. Now, if you talk to older witnesses, they'll admit to this, that they met at Masonic lodges in the past. In fact, I've had firsthand experience of speaking to someone who was met or used to meet back in the early days at a Freemasonic lodge. And that individual's, I guess, excuse to me was that it didn't matter that they were sitting in a lodge with all these symbolisms, but because they knew they had the one true religion, that's what they focused on. However, witnesses meeting at a Freemasonic lodge is the pure definition of being part of this world. Now on the right, we have an announcement here focusing on the design of a pyramid monument to be a memorial to the society, together with detailed description. So this pyramid monument, I believe, is the exact same one that Watchtower would like to erase out of their history. And that is the Pastor Russell pyramid monument that was erected in Pennsylvania and now no longer exists because it was removed, I believe, a couple of years ago. So let's move on to pyramidology. If we look at Faith in Action Part 1, timestamp 3651, we'll see what appears to be a pyramid with the all-seeing eye on top. And that is the screenshot of the photodrama of creation, which came out in 1914. Now, this was a Charles Taze Russell documentary, which witnesses used to pride themselves on because it was the first, I believe, movie with sound and color, something like that. So it's no secret that Charles Taze Russell was deeply involved in pyramidology. And to the right here, we have the monument in the shape of a pyramid with the same cross and crown that we looked at earlier. And the top of that pyramid had the all-seeing eye as well. Now, even though the Watchtower would like to remove all traces of this pyramid, we still have the program for it that can be found online, and I'll put these links in the description, where clearly the witnesses got together and erected this monument, and it was a big deal back in the day to even have a program for. Now, you would think that over the years they would run away from this pyramid teaching, which also birthed, I believe, the original 1914 doctrine by measuring the entrances of the pyramid to get the 1914 doctrine. But years later, we see here that the witnesses built this assembly hall. They didn't purchase this. This was erected by the witnesses or watchtower. And of course, it's built in the exact same shape as a pyramid. We have the eye up top. We even have the lines at the bottom, which looks much like the pyramid on the back of a $1 United States bill. Now, regardless of what you think of what the all-seeing eye is, whether it's satanic, whether it's just an occult thing that only those in the know what it is about, the point here is that they are indeed part of the world. They're using the exact same symbolisms as people in the world use, or the powers that be use. Why is a Jehovah's Witness assembly hall built in the exact same shape as a pyramid with the all-seeing eye? And that eye, I believe, is the seating area where the witnesses would sit, and then we have the stage up top. So it's built in a way where the eye is perfectly at the top of the pyramid. And then, of course, we have these lines down below. Now, this can be found on Google Maps till this day. It is named under, I think it's a Dutch name, but it is named with Jehovah in it till this day. Now, I believe I've heard that they had since sold this piece of property, but the proof is in the pudding, and we can still find this today. Now, next we have the name Jehovah. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses call upon this name day in and day out. They pray to Jehovah. If something goes right in their life, they will thank Jehovah, even out loud, day and night, year in and year out. However, if you ask the average Jehovah's Witness where the name Jehovah comes from, they will not have a clue. Now, in the 1980 Watchtower, it clearly gives us where the name came from. It says, interestingly, Raimundas Martini, a Spanish monk of the Dominican order, first rendered the divine name as Jehovah, no H. This form appeared in his book published in 1270, over 700 years ago. So here we have Watchtower admitting back in 1980 that they did not come up with this word Jehovah, that a Spanish monk of the Dominican order first came up with that word. Next, we have here the New World Translation, 1950 edition, foreword. It says, while inclining to view the pronunciation Yahweh as the more correct way, we have retained the form Jehovah because of people's familiarity with it since the 14th century. So Watchtower is admitting that Yahweh is the more correct way to pronounce Almighty God of this world, yet they insist on using Jehovah because people are supposedly more familiar with it since the 14th century. So it's saying that even though we believe to be God's one true religion, we're going to stick with calling him what other people have been calling him. We're not going to use Yahweh. We're going to stick with Jehovah because people are familiar with Jehovah. That's what they said in 1950. Now we're going to look at masonic.wiki.com under the word Jehovah. It says Jehovah is, of all the significant words of Freemasonry, by far the most important. So now this can be found in many Freemasonic glossaries. This is not just this one website that's quoting this. You can go out and buy a physical copy of a Masonic glossary, and under Jehovah it will say the exact same thing. So the question is, why does Watchtower go out of its way to use the word Jehovah, even though they know or they claim that Yahweh is the far more correct way of pronouncing the God of the Bible's name? Well, it's because it has to do with being part of this world. They refuse to use Yahweh because Jehovah connects them to the rest of the world. In gematria, which is what the powers that be use, we can find gematria throughout news media articles, propaganda, education, indoctrination. This is the type of spell magic that they use to control people all around the world. In any box that you may find yourself in, you have to understand that they're all connected. So Jehovah in gematria in one cipher equals to 33, and so does JW. And 33, for anyone that doesn't know, it's the highest degree of Freemasonry, as they will have the public know at least. Now you're going to see that number a lot when you begin waking up to the deception of the world. And like I said, it's the highest degree of Freemasonry. This is why the witnesses do not use Yahweh. It's because Jehovah is a made-up name that connects itself back to Freemasonry. I also found it interesting that in another cipher, Jehovah equals 120, because 120 in the Bible, it's one of the few numbers that Jehovah or Yahweh has spoken to man. In Genesis 6:3, he says that man's days will amount to 120 years. And in Deuteronomy 34:7, that's the exact age that Moses died at, 120 years. So a bit more of the spell magic that the Watchtower organization uses, as well as the rest of the world. They are indeed part of the world, and you're going to see this type of thing come up the more you look into it. Now, this last part is not going to be easy for most people to stomach, because the more you examine this reality, this construct that we live in, the more you realize how deep the deception runs. This is from the February 15th, 1983 Watchtower. And right there on the front cover, we see this film design here with different photos inside of them. Now, if we zoom in on the largest photo, of course, we're going to see those two famous buildings in New York with an airplane heading toward them. Now, on first glance, this looks like a normal image because, sure, it's New York City, and here we have a plane flying by. But notice that the plane is flying toward the buildings, not away. And it's flying at a lower level. It's not somewhere off in the distance. It's very much so in the frame of the illustration. A bit too close to the buildings, you might say. Now, I know people would say, well, this is a coincidence. I know what you're getting at, but it's just a coincidence. It's just a busy city. They're going to show the skyline, and it's going to be a common thing for an aircraft to be flying by the skyline. So if that's the case, how do you explain Watchtower doing something like this two more times? Here we have the October 8th, 1974 awake on the left, and the February 15th, 1975 Watchtower on the right. In both images, we see the exact same buildings and an aircraft flying between them. And on the image on the right, of course, we have here what seems to be some type of nuclear weapon. So they're putting fear into the people. So they're trying to show that technology has advanced because we have airplanes, we have cars, and we have rockets and nuclear weapons. Now, I personally do not believe rockets go into so-called outer space, nor that nuclear weapons actually exist. But that's a discussion for another time. But why would Watchtower show advancement of technology by using an airplane and those two famous buildings? Is that a coincidence? That's 3 times now that we can find those twin towers and aircrafts flying between them or near them. Now, you might ask yourself, well, even if this is not a coincidence, could it be that someone from the governing body wrote down to the writing department, the illustration department, and said, we're going to want to portray technology's advancement as buildings and airplanes, and it has to be those twin tower buildings? Personally, I don't believe someone from the higher ups or behind the scenes wrote down to the writing department to create these images. Now, some people look into what's called predictive programming, and I myself had studied this in the past, where certain cartoons or certain TV shows may forecast what will happen on a specific date. And I won't argue with anyone that claims this to be predictive programming, but I personally believe something more is happening with reality, where reality sees to it that these things are printed one way or another. Now, in some cases, I do believe that organizations like those behind the scenes, those in power, create these predictive programming TV shows, or they insert certain things into programming to program the people. However, this is one of those things where it's been found way too many times, not just in Watchtower literature, but I'll be playing a clip at the end of this presentation to show how abundant this symbology of a plane and 2 buildings has been found throughout pop culture, cartoons, movies, so on. So regardless of what you believe right now, the point here is that Watchtower is not exempt from being involved in what is being presented here, and that is that they are part of this world. Again, the first thing you learn when you're being indoctrinated is that we are no part of this world. We're different. We're Jehovah's people. But the rank and file witness has no idea what type of organization they're involved with, and that their organization is indeed part of the world, just like every other organization. You do not get to control $1 billion. You do not get to own property in New York and sell it to Jared Kushner and own over $1 billion of real estate. You don't form a company back in the 1800s, have it last over 100 years, get free labor, get volunteers, get voluntary donations week in and week out, grow the business to $1.5 billion in assets, and not be controlled. Jehovah's Witnesses, or Watchtower, is 100% part of the world. Now, going back to the 33 found in Freemasonry, just to show you how connected and planned out these things are. We look at the date of the start of construction of the Twin Towers, which is 1968, and the day that they came down, 2001. That means from construction to destruction, the total amount of years, none other than 33. So this just goes to show you how planned out, how orchestrated, how set up this reality really is. We're living in a script. And many people wake up from being in a religion, from being in a cult, but they fall right back to sleep because they don't understand the way this reality works. However, we'll be going into more of that in future videos.
1949, Porky Pig and Charlie Dog cartoon.
Look! What's that? Look! It's the towers! They're falling! Ah!
1963, Wonder Woman comic book cover. 1970, 30 Seconds Over New York, book by Robert Bacard. 1973, Godzilla vs. Megalon, movie poster. 1973, Superman comic. 1975, Cracked magazine cover. 1976, 9/11, a book by Thomas Chastain. 1976, Sesame Street magazine cover. 1976, Spidey Super Stories comic book cover. 1978, Super Friends TV show, the episode entitled Monolith of Evil. 1978, Dr. John, City Lights album cover. 1979, Meteor movie poster. 1979, Supertramp, Breakfast in America album cover. 1979, Saga, Images at Twilight album cover. 1979, Pakistan International Airlines ad. 1983, Def Leppard, Pyromania album cover. 1983, a book by Jose Borja. 1985, G.I. Joe, Episode 46.
You just stand right there, Sonny. Look straight ahead and hold still while we scan you.
Hey! Transaction approved. Subject's retinal scan matches no known dissident, subversive, or enemy of state on file. Have a nice day.
Hey, come back here! This money ain't no good! It's US dollars! Absolutely worthless!
1986. Daredevil comic book cover. 1986. Real Ghostbusters, Season 1, Episode 12. 1986. Dream Machine.
There's computers where the resolution is so high that you can never tell that it was ever touched by anything, which raises the whole question of photography as evidence of anything. I don't even think people are aware of how much computer graphics is used today. There's just a whole question now of what is real.
Create a new reality by adding an erupting volcano to the San Francisco skyline. Or remove the World Trade Center from the New York City skyline.
1987. The Squeeze movie cover. 1987. Cover of Fortune International magazine. 1988. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Season 2, Episode 7.
Oh, bad news, Master Splinter. Shredder is up to something, but he ran off before we could discover what.
All we know is it had something to do with the Twin Towers.
Sooner or later, he will reveal his plan.
Like, what do you suppose Shredder's up to this time? Michelangelo, you heard April's message. He's been spotted on the roof of the World Trade Center.
It's for sure he's not there for the view.
Hey! What is it? Hang on! We're gonna crash!
1988. Microsoft Flight Simulator. 1989. WWF.
Twin Towers, take it, Mean Gene.
It's with me at this time, the Slickster, a key in the African dream and a big boss man. Gentlemen, is this the match you wanted all along, or are you going to continue your terrorist attacks on the mega powers and the defenseless Elizabeth? What do you want? All right, thank you, Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, the lovely Elizabeth. Three people working as one with one goal in mind, to defeat, or should I say demolish, the Twin Towers.
Ooh, yeah.
Hulk Hogan, you talked about the Triangle of Love. Jesse Ventura says there's a problem. Explain.
Well, you know, Mean Gene, you get right to the heart of the matter with that question, brother. It's the love, man, that's gonna supercharge the mega powers and tear down the Twin Towers.
Yeah. Yes, man. What were your thoughts then?
Oh, yeah, Mean Gene, I can still feel the pain when that cold steel bit into Miss Elizabeth's wrist right there. And when her muscles were torn, my muscles were torn. When her bone was bruised right there, I felt the pain. Hulk Hogan felt the pain, and I can still feel the pain right now. And Hulk Hogan, that pain won't stop until the Twin Towers come crumbling down. Oh, yeah, right now tonight on prime time, yeah.
1989. Jason Takes Manhattan movie poster. 1991. Terminator 2. 1991. Spider-Man comic. 1991. 1991, TetraStar video game. 1992, King of Monsters video game. 1992, Rugrats Season 2, Episode 14.
Hair, Cynthia doll.
Of course you do. And if you're a good little girl,
A Teenage Nuclear Fusion Squad video game.
Well...
A Rocco Mr. X exploding smash-up doll. A Beverly Hills Cynthia lunchbox. A pony. And a 9/11 emergency surgical kit with working stethoscope.
1993, X-Men Season 1, Episode 12.
They want action. They want protection. They want revenge. The mutant control law is passed, calling for an army of sentinels. They march over the nation, seeking out mutants, hunting them down like animals.
Surrender, mutant.
Some fight back. But not for long. The Sentinels herd the surviving mutants into detention camps. The camps are your final stop. You never leave. Never! But those who control the Sentinels don't stop with mutants. Eventually, they bring their new world order to all humans.
1993, Super Mario Bros. The movie.
Look! It's Koopa's Tower!
1994, Iron Man cartoon, Season 1, Episode 5.
Unidentified warplane sighted heading for New York City.
Our detection system shows nothing. Mayday! Mayday! New York is under attack! Intercept and destroy!
A force field is shielding the warplane. It's getting through.
It's time. We will now strike at the heart of American defense and destroy the Pentagon with one swift and deadly blow.
1994, Aero Fighter 2 video game. (1994) Fantastic Four, Season 1, Episode 4. 1994, Viceland magazine article. 1994, Friends intro debut. 1994, Deathstroke the Terminator comic book cover. 1995, The Tick, Season 1, Episode 12.
We are under attack! Things so monstrous! Terror unleashed from the sacred cotton candy place of our dreams! If anyone is out there listening, get out of town before it gets to you! And I'm out of here!
1995, Hackers.
Beat that.
1995, Philips Home Cinema commercial.
Pictures so real you won't believe your eyes. Dolby Prologic surround sound so exciting your eyes won't believe your ears. The ultimate home cinema televisions from Philips, including 100 Hz flicker-free pictures and widescreens. Philips, let's make things better.
1995, Illuminati card game. 1996, The Long Kiss Goodnight.
1993, World Trade Center bombing, remember? During the trial, one of the bombers claimed the CIA had advanced knowledge. The diplomat who issued the terrorist visa was CIA. It's not unthinkable they paved the way for the bombing purely to justify a budget increase.
You're telling me that you're gonna fake some terrorist thing just to scare some money out of Congress?
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Hennessy, I've no idea how to fake killing 4,000 people. So we're just gonna have to do it for real. Oh, blame it on the Muslims, naturally. Then I get my funding. Good night, old girl.
1996. This is a steal from Independence Day, but they show this briefly in the movie. (1997) Men in Black cartoon, Season 1, Episode 6.
Slim, remember those Twin Towers?
Yeah, what about them?
I don't think they're gonna be so tall anymore.
Oh, no.
1997, The Simpsons, Season 9, Episode 1.
Oh, I'd love to see New York. We could all go with the bus company's special Super Sitter fare. $9? This one's on me. Great!
And real quick, here's a clip from Season 21, Episode 20, which is a continuation after 9/11.
Is this what the framers of the Constitution would want? How many personal freedoms are we willing to give up in the name of security?
That blonde girl thinks she's smart like us dark hairs.
1997, Extreme Ghostbusters, Season 1, Episode 38.
I'm afraid it simply retreated in order to regenerate and regroup, readying for another attack.
Manhattan. Guys, I think it's time for some serious firepower.
1997, German Mario Bros. Comic. 1997, Emergency Response to Terrorism Self-Study. 1997, St. John's Cathedral. It has a Freemasonic sculpting depicting a disaster in New York. 1998, Armageddon.
Well, you know why? Because this is New York City. Anything could have happened. Look at that. Let me see. It could have been a terrorist, bomb, a dead body, somebody shot, stabbed. And it's Friday payday, too. Somebody probably jumped, didn't get that paycheck.
(1998) The Parent Trap.
How weird is that? Extremely.
1998, a steal from the movie Godzilla. 1998, Pirelli Tires ad. 1999, Batman Beyond, Season 2, Episode 12.
Vibration, it's gonna knock down the towers.
The towers are falling. Get away from there.
No use pleading. You're dead.
(1999) 7 Days.
The defensive missiles will stay close to the building, so try to stay with them.
What's going on?
Boy, Red.
Throw me in, would ya?
Stand by, Nancy. That's it. That's it. Whoa. Hang in tight.
That's it?
I'm so good at this.
And graphics suck. The best game show body parts blow up and stuff. And you gotta know you won. You know, you gotta have fireworks, buzzers, something, not just game over.
I'll see what I can do. Red, let's get this equipment loaded and take our show on the road.
Cool.
Early reports indicate more than 50 people killed, including many high-ranking officers, and several hundred injured. How the missile got through air defenses surrounding the Pentagon is still the subject of much debate.
1999, Fight Club. $1999, The Matrix. $2000, Rugrats in Paris. 2000, The Patriot.
9 pounds, 11 ounces. That's perfect.
More like The Patriot Act. 2001, New York Magazine. Interestingly enough, it says, "Is there life beyond the boom?" And it also has the one-eye symbolism. 2001, March, The Lone Gunman.
You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
The Cold War's over, John. But with no clear enemy to stockpile against, the arms market's flat. But bring down a fully loaded 727 into the middle of New York City, and you'll find a dozen tin pot dictators all over the world just clamoring to take responsibility and begging to be smart-bombed.
I can't believe it. This is about increasing arms sales.
Mm-hmm.
When?
Tonight?
Manual override.
$2001, June, just months before the events took place. The Coupe Party Music album cover. There you have it. That was more than 60 instances of 9/11 predictive programming. Simply too many for them all to be coincidences. Also check out Back to the Future. That movie is loaded with 9/11 symbolism. Also, if you have any other movies that I didn't list here, feel free to write them down in the comments. So that's it. I'm gonna get out of here, but as always, I'm gonna leave you guys with some awesome clips. Yeah, so share this stuff with your family and friends and try to help wake more people up, man. That's all we could do right now, unfortunately. So this is ODD TV. Thanks for watching.
It'll be 9/11 all over again.
Will you shut up about 9/11?
Kyle, why are you so afraid of the truth?
Because anybody who thinks 9/11 was a conspiracy is a retard.
Butters, do you think 9/11 was just a plot by some angry terrorists, or do you think there was some kind of cover-up?
Well, I heard that 9/11 was caused by President Bush. Butters, you don't really believe that, do you? Well, I mean, you never know. The government does some pretty spooky things. The government and the corporations headed by the Jews that carried out 9/11.
We are told to believe that the fire from the jet fuel melted the steel framing of the towers, which led to their collapse. But did you know jet fuel doesn't burn at high enough temperature to melt steel? We were told the Pentagon was hit by a hijacked plane as well. But now look at this photo of the Pentagon. The hole is not nearly big enough. And if a plane hit it, where's the rest of the plane? Whoa.
I know it seems crazy, but 9/11 was pulled off by our own government.
so they could gain support for attacking the Middle East.
Dude, why would the government attack its own buildings?
It's called the false flag policy. Make it look like the enemy has attacked you. Get all your citizens riled up and waving American flags. Then you're free to invade any country you want.
That's retarded.
We control everything. We've all worked very hard to keep our involvement in 9/11 a secret. But you just had to keep digging.
Really?
You won't get away with it. People know.
People? You mean sheeple?
No way.
He was right. You did cause 9/11.
Yes. Quite simple to pull off, really. All I had to do was have explosives planted in the base of the towers. Then on 9/11, we pretended like 4 planes were being hijacked when really we just rerouted them to Pennsylvania, then flew 2 military jets in the World Trade Center filled with more explosives and shot down all the witnesses in Flight 93 with an F-15 after blowing up the Pentagon with a cruise missile. It was only the world's most intricate and flawlessly executed plan ever.
What you're gonna hear from me, you're not gonna hear from anybody else because, my opinions, well, let's just say they're not popular. 9/11? Inside job, plain and simple. All you gotta do is connect the dots, and I'm not talking about the dots everyone's already heard about. I'm not talking about Bush sitting in that school reading a book about a goat to those kids for 7.5 minutes after he was told the news. Everybody knows that. I am talking about a massive neoconservative government effort. It's been in the works for over 20 years. You ever hear of PNAC, Project for New American Century?
Perhaps.
According to them, the end goal of their effort is American global domination. Full spectrum dominance, they call it. Now, the first question that pops to my mind is, how do you pull that off in this day and age? Well, according to them, you do it in 4 steps. First, we must control the world's oil, especially the oil in Central Asia and the Middle East. Now, I don't have to remind you that Bush Cheney, they came to power with plans already made to attack Afghanistan and Iraq. Number 2, we have to make huge technological advances with our armed forces that for some reason include the capability to fight wars from outer space. Number 3, surprise, surprise, huge increases in military spending to pay for the above. $130 billion a year worth. Now, never mind the sick and dying first responders, 9/11's heroes, who can't even pay their light bill, let alone their medical bills, and a lot of whom are ending up homeless because of it. I guess there's just not enough room in the budget for them. Number 4, and this is key, we changed the definition of preemptive attack so we can unilaterally bomb the shit out of, invade, and occupy countries even if they pose no credible threat or had nothing to do with 9/11. One problem. How are you gonna put it into action? I mean, the American people are never gonna go for no shit like that, right? You're damn straight. Now what you need is an event. An event that gets everyone's heads turned around the right way. What you need is a new Pearl Harbor. That's what they said they needed. Now you're looking at a guy who went to 58 funerals in 26 days. I can tell you that is sure as shit what they got. Are you single?
Slave to the system, you have a shout. You gotta beat the bastards, beat them now.